had a challenge in connecting with your audience in your speeches. Our next speaker has also faced this challenge, and a few years ago learned of a simple, effective way to connect with any audience at any time. Today you will learn this easy way to connect to your next speaking audience. Please join me in welcoming our next speaker, Tim Wilson.
A few years ago, I learned about this powerful technique that professional speakers use to connect with their audiences. It's simple, it's effective, it's useful. If you do this, you can double or even triple the connection that you currently have with your audience. It's kind of a trade secret, but something that I think might benefit people. So I started using it. It's become more and more helpful, more and more useful. Today you're going to learn about that secret. You're going to find out about how to use it, and you'll find out the mistakes most speakers make. And the reason most speakers are challenged in connecting with their audience because of this simple mistake. You'll find out a few more things at the time the speech is over. You might be wondering, Tim, were you always concerned with connecting with your audience? Is always a goal of yours? And no, not really. When I first came to Toastmasters years ago, I just wanted to get through the CC manual. You know about this? Some know about this, okay. If you've been in Toastmasters for a while, you probably know about the CC manual because it gets sent to you in your mail. If you've been in Toastmasters for a while, you have no clue what the CC manual is, check your mail. You might have missed something. CC manual steps you through the basics of becoming a speaker. So I wanted to become a better speaker. I started reading to this thing. And the very first one is called the icebreaker. Familiar? Shannon knows about it. Oh, sorry, I mentioned your name. This woman knows about it. Cynthia's heard about it. All right. So it's the icebreaker, and I start reading through this thing, and it goes through all the thing, and it says, talk about yourself. And I think, I can do that. I can talk about myself. And it says, for 4 to 6 minutes. Challenge, but I can do it. So I get the icebreaker out there, go through the thing, finish it, and do it in 4 minutes, 1 second. And I'm done. Okay, great, I'm done. And I said the next thing to go is the next speech, organize your speech. You might have heard of that one. So I'm reading through the thing, and it going through stuff about organization, all this kind of stuff, really helpful. But it doesn't say what to talk about. I'm thinking, well, I talked about myself in the first speech. Seemed to go okay. I'll just talk about myself again. Make sense? So that's what I did. I just kind of talked about myself again. Did it, and I got to the third speech. And I thought, well, I talked about myself in the first speech and the second speech, and that was okay, so I'll just do it again. So I started doing that. Maybe you've done that? You start talking about the things that interest you, that are relevant to you, exciting to you. And I just kept doing that all the way through. Third speech, fourth speech, fifth speech, seventh speech, all the way through the 10th speech. And I became very, very, very good about talking about me and the things that interest me and only me. So a few years go by, and I'm in this club, Extreme Toastmasters, with Rocky Romero's there. And Rocky is a black-haired guy, medium height. Most importantly, he's a professional speaker and a salesman. So he knows a lot about speaking. I'm kind of excited about Rocky there. It's a family that gets me great thoughts. So I go through and I give this speech. I'm talking about my career as a secretary. Booking things and being on the phone and talking with different people. And go this whole, 5 to 7 minute speech. And I finish it. And afterwards I go to Rocky and say, Rocky, what do you think of my speech? Tim, you talked for 5 to 7 minutes about yourself and your interests, and it had nothing to do with the audience. Rocky, that's how Toastmasters works. I get up there and I talk about a 5 to 7 minute speech nobody else cares about, and they've got to sit there, and afterwards they have to clap. And then I sit down and somebody else gives a 5 to 7 minute speech I don't care about, and then afterwards I have to listen and I have to clap. That's how Toastmasters works. Tim, in the real world, not only don't they have to clap, they can leave. Whoa. Never thought about that. What do I do, Rocky? That's where Rocky told me something that just transformed my speaking awareness, the way I think about speaking. Tim, use the word you. When you're speaking, use the you. And Rocky went on to explain a little bit more about what happens in Toastmasters and what happens with a lot of speakers. What happens is you start about speaking and you talk about yourself because you know yourself. You know what you're talking about, right? You're familiar with that. So you start talking about yourself and you practice it. You become very good about talking about yourself. You done that? Yeah. Cynthia, I've done it. And as you go through, you become very, very good about talking about yourself, your own interests, the things that interest you, the things you're about. Something else happens, kind of a side effect. You didn't intend it to happen, it happens anyway, because you're talking so much about yourself. As you're getting so good about talking about yourself, you're also getting really, really good at ignoring your audience. The more you talk about yourself, and the less it has to do with your audience, the more you're kind of practicing ignoring your audience. And pretty soon you get so good at ignoring your audience, guess what happens? Your audience learns to get really, really good at ignoring you as well. Think about this. What's the word you hear most often from speakers? It's a pronoun. I, thank you. What's the word you hear next most often? Sort of like I.
Me.
We, thank you. Have you ever heard one of those speeches? We are here today to do this stuff, and we've got to all pull together, and we've got to have a good time, and you're thinking, not me. Not me, not a chance, no way, no how, forget it, not me. But if you use the you, and say, have you ever, did you ever, could you ever, might you ever, you'll find you can open up to your audience, open up to you. That's the power of using you. Now, you might be thinking, yeah, I like talking about myself. I don't intend to stop. I kept on doing it from the beginning, and I'm just going to keep doing it because it works for me. That's fine. You want to disconnect from your audience? Yeah, ignore the audience. You want to make sure people forget your speech after you talk about it? Forget the audience. You want to make sure that in your next speech you get up there, you got this kind of wall between you and people, ignore the audience. But if you want to connect in deeper, more strongly with your audience, use the you. If you want a simple way to connect every time to everyone, use the you. If you want to get people to remember your speech for days, months, years afterwards, use the you. And once you discover the you, you'll discover that people, all of a sudden, you're large and in charge up there on stage. You don't waste your time in speeches anymore. It's a simple thing to do, simple one-step process using the you, and you start to enjoy your time on stage more, and your audience starts to enjoy the experience more too. So the very next speech you do, always remember, use the you.
I find your enthusiasm very compelling when you get up there. There's just something so attractive about somebody who seems excited to talk, and I think that is very compelling and makes us want to watch you. I've seen this speech before. I really do like it. I believe in the points you bring across. I have some suggestions for growth opportunities. When you get to the part where you're saying that you gave your first speech, it went okay, you talked about yourself, and so what can I do for my second speech? I'm good. Talk about yourself. Then when Rocky comes to tell you that, oh, you just talked about yourself, instead of being, well, that's, you know, you kind of came off as a stuck-up jerk when you were replying to him saying, well, I know it's incredibly boring, but everybody else does it, and that's just what I'm going to do. Instead, I would say, be innocent and say, well, who wouldn't want to hear about me? They seem to be liking it. I thought people were really enjoying it, and I was just giving them what they wanted. So I think it would be better to come off as naive than as kind of a jerk. And also, if you're doing something that you're entirely bored when somebody else is doing it, why are you in this organization? So I would suggest sweetness rather than jerkiness for more pulling the audience in. Also, I have a suggestion for you. I would suggest you bring a giant eyeball and a stuffed sheep, and then talk about, we don't like this so much, do we? The eye, but we do like this sheep, which is a you. So instead of the I, use the you. Although I suppose that could be sort of scary. It's just an alternate suggestion.
All right.
Okay.
And I actually drew pictures for you in case you.
I could really relate to the part where you talked about the CC manual. That was just wonderful because you didn't get a lot of steerage, and I did kind of get the feeling that the goal was to work through it, and that some magic would happen in the process of working through it. And I must say, a lot of magic happened because just having the strength to get up there and give those speeches was something in and of itself. And I never had the feeling of feeling quite so at ease as you did, no matter what the topic was. But I liked how you shared a limiting factor from a personal experience. That helped me a lot. And especially when you said, and you know, and then you have to clap. It's like, oh boy, because sometimes I wondered, why are we clapping? This is generating enthusiasm. And I didn't always really relate to it, but it was a good experience. And so that's great when you moved it to the real world, because that's what it's all about, right? How are you going to extend these skills to the real world? I really like that you could do another speech on that. And the Rocky said you, I mean, it's a great, it could be a song, you know, very memorable. The example, more examples, growth opportunities would be more examples of from I like to eat lunch out. From how could you convert that into something the audience would be interested in? Like, when you really are desperately hungry at lunchtime, how do you pursue it, especially if you're working downtown?
Tim, you did a great job, and I just know that you didn't prepare for your speech, but your speech is really enthusiastic, and you did a very good gesture when you want to emphasize the point that it's not I and you. For the beginning, for the opening, I like you mentioned the secret, which really hook up the audience. You mentioned that, oh, this is a secret, that how you can connect with your audience. This is a speech I'm going to sell you. The audience heard about that. It matters to us because we want to make our speech matters. We want to sell our ideas. At the beginning, you did that. The other is you use your personal stories to illustrate the points. My suggestion would be maybe at the beginning you don't need to spend so much time to tell how you spent your time to went through all the CC menus, which is a little bit off the topic of the secret. And the other suggestion is you can compare the before and after. Before you did your speech, and you maybe use tons of I, but you use a real paragraph. How did you do that? And after that, you change the same message, but you change the words and let the audience feel the difference. Maybe that would be more relevant.
Tim, that was a very engaging speech, and right away you hooked the audience. It was, I believe, as Crystal said, almost like a marketing is kind of what as I thought, and then you pulled in the audience with the questions and the humor with relating it to Toastmasters. And even though this is my first meeting as a guest, I found humor in it and was even able to relate to that. So
I enjoyed that quite a bit. You are very confident and secure on the stage. You're very animated. And, as you said, your enthusiasm is palpable. It comes through, and that really, regardless of the content, just made me want to listen. So you are engaging in that sense. I love, from a practical point of view, some of the advice in the speech. I love the way you recounted the story, talking to the uber achiever and the overachiever and so forth. That was good stuff. The cadence, I think one of your strengths, regardless of whatever topic that you use, is your use of the cadence of the language. When you said works for me, I didn't quite get that right, but it was beautiful. I mean, you're varying your pitch and speed and making the whole presentation very, very engaging. In terms of growth opportunities, the only thing in that particular speech that, if you'd had maybe a little more time, I would have liked to have heard you recount a speech that you thought was very effective and show how someone else used some of the principles that you had iterated earlier in your own talk. And beyond that, I'd love to hear you take on some stand-up comedy. I think you have a natural gift of humor and the irony that you see in this very organization with this sort of bureaucracy of speeches. There's lots of good fodder in there, and I would welcome the opportunity to hear something like that.
Tonight has been a very good learning experience for me. Some of the things I really liked are the way you did use humor, not just to make us laugh, but to drive home the point. That humor you had in there brought home your point, so it was very much related. I thought you did used humor excellently. The phrase, use the you, it's stuck in my mind now, it's great. You will not hear me using the word I. And you told us up front what we were going to hear. I liked that because I thought, sounds good. Sounds good. He's going to deliver. He's going to give us some real good pointers today. My suggestions for growth this time really have to do with body language, and I think I was into that with Cynthia. And early on, I can't remember exactly what you said, very early on, but you did a little funny rocking motion, and your hands were like this, and I almost thought you were doing the steering wheel thing, and that distracted me. And I didn't really see how this motion applied to something where I think you were weighing pros and cons or something like that. And also some of this, I didn't see the point how that you tended to do that. So I would say watch the gestures a little bit. Other than that, I use the you, that's my phrase for today. I liked that very much.
About the speech, and it's generally hard to find anything on you, so I purposely always try to find something on you.
Please do.
It's the T's. You do that so effectively. I have something that's going to make your speeches better, and you went on and on. You effectively used the T's well. I picked that up right away. I liked the humor when you brought in Shannon. Sorry, Shannon. I mean, a nice tie-in. I mean, I just like how you do that. The dialogue with Rocky was ideal, too. I thought you did that extremely well. 2 suggestions, just to pivot off of something Mary said. Some of your gestures. There was one gesture you did when you were doing this. It just didn't work. So you want to be mindful how that looks, depending how what you're saying to the audience. And if somehow you can incorporate using the you, and probably one of the most difficult speeches to use the you is the icebreaker. Maybe if you can give a few examples of that, I think that would just make this speech even more powerful and more informative.